This is Ayana, and this is the Everything Grows podcast where we talk about growing from where we are. Today we have Markus. And this is an audience of one. We got to make it live. But I'm so excited to have him on today to have a conversation about purpose and have a conversation about journey, roadmaps, and getting to this point. When I originally reached out to Markus, it was because of some things that our mayor, Miss Bowser, had to say. But I already wanted him on, as y'all can see from the past visitors. We have an amazing network of intelligent people, of people who are active in the community and not only talk about it, but actually are about it in the streets. If you get a chance to look at Markus' page at the end, I'll of course share where you can find him. But Markus is in the streets. He does not play and has never played. So I'm very excited to talk to him. So Markus, when we talk about being from Washington, first let me let you say hi and how's your day going?
Hello. Thank you. I just want to say congratulations on this incredible platform that you're building, not just for yourself, but for all of us. These conversations are really important, and I'm really grateful to be a part of them. So thank you first and foremost for inviting me. And relatively speaking, I'm doing good. Happy, trying to stay healthy in equal parts and just trying to take this fight day by day. I don't think any of us can say we're not in challenging times, just like as a society, as a community, especially in DC. But, I think we're taking it all in stride, trying to get our little bit of joy where we can. But we're still in the fight, to your point, and very much out in the streets.
Yes, definitely. And there's so much going on in DC. The range of events are like meteors, just hitting us, and hitting us. Can you explain what's going on in Washington, D.C.? Today makes 30 days, and I didn't even realize what was going on, but things are in alignment. Today makes 30 days. So can you give a brief overview of what's going on in D.C. right now?
Today is day 30 of a declared emergency by the President of the United States in the District of Columbia that, quite frankly, is based on a lie. Since the campaign trail, he has been talking about, DC in particular, but really Black-led cities around the country, trying to build this narrative that those cities are unsafe, that they're crime-ridden, that they're havens for dangerous illegal immigrants, that they're run by incompetent leaders. It just so happens that many of those leaders also happen to be Black. And so he's like already set the stage for the war that he's waging on DC and that he wants to wage on cities around the country. And so 30 days ago, he imposed a presidential emergency in the District of Columbia to combat crime, which at first meant sending a surge of federal troops onto our streets, DEA, ICE, ATF, who were now participating in law enforcement, and a lot of federal officials took authority away from the mayor and the police chief to, direct public safety in the city in a lot of ways. And then a couple weeks ago, it also meant the introduction of several thousand National Guard troops onto the streets of DC, which I think just raised the stakes. These are armed, people trained for combat, carrying rifles on the streets of an American city. And so I think for DC, obviously there's like some practical impacts. There's been a huge campaign of mass incarceration that's been waged over the last 30 days. But I think what's happened in DC has shown people around the country what is possible, and quite frankly, what's likely in other cities around the country if we don't do something about it. So DC residents have been out on the street. Folks around the country have shown their solidarity, and we'll continue to push back. But yeah, today is day 30, which is his legal limit for continuing to impose this current emergency. But that doesn't mean that the fight's over to protect DC and our local autonomy.
Absolutely. And that's you hear how Marcus put all that together so eloquently because Marcus knows what he's talking about. And it is crazy to see because as you said, they're on our streets. And what I was saying, a lot of what I saw was social media, seeing people pulling out their phones. And I'm so grateful that a lot of us are choosing that to pull out our phones and make sure we see what's going on and share what's going on. And then for a long time I didn't see anything because I live like closer downtown, like near Union Station now. But growing up on the south side, of course, I know plenty of people. So there's things being posted online, them checking people's cars, them stopping people, them running up on people. And I'm just like, this is insane. This is berserk. And then I saw the stark difference of what I was seeing on this side of town, me walking around, not really seeing anybody until maybe I get to Union Station. And then recently I've been taking the train and I'm seeing people, like you said, with rifles. And I'm like, this is insane around not just people, children, elderly, like this. It was so shocking. And I that was supposed to be part of the later on in the conversation, but it's now. Do you think that it's just supposed to be an element of shock value? Like what do you think is the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is about the imagery. Obviously, I mean, the president is a joke. I mean, most
Mm-hmm.
of what he does is for the photo op. They are all in it for the news cycle, and so they don't really care about the truth. They just care about how it looks. And so, yeah, you've seen, mostly a lot of these deployments just used for the photo op for president. So you'll see the White House sending video crews along with National Guard or federal agent deployments on these like fake missions. They produced this like high quality video on taxpayer dollars that had to have cost tens of thousands of dollars to go arrest on video the guy who threw a sandwich right at the federal officer, and they charged that man with a felony. Obviously, those bogus charges got dropped, but like this
They
is the
said,
type of show like they're trying to put on. But I don't want to understate that like there are real lives caught in the balance, right? So
absolutely.
they are waging a mass arrest campaign, right? So there are like checkpoints on public roads and on highways across DC where people are being stopped and arrested for low level offenses like, not having your car properly registered or having, your tents be too dark. They're also using those stops as pretexts for ICE, for immigration enforcement. So you see, while there's been an increase in arrests in DC, 40% of those are arrests of nonviolent people on immigration offenses. And those people are being deported. They're being jailed. On one Tuesday a few weeks ago, over 144 people got arraigned in DC Superior Court.
Right, and that's it was
Court
going into
was in
the late
session,
hours of the
yeah,
night.
till
Yeah.
1 a.m. And so, yeah, and so some of it's about the symbolism, but it is having a real impact on people. There are real people caught in this show, and they're losing their freedom in a lot of these instances. And obviously, like in some of our, as we've seen, like, for some of Trump's worst stunts, like people lose their lives too. And so
Yeah.
it's really dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what Mayor Bowser said, you all, was basically she was just thanking the increased off the officers for helping MPD be able to do their job better. That's basically the gist of it from what I got, and it made me upset because I'm like, maybe you don't have a decision about what goes on in that element, but you do have a decision in how you speak to your constituents and
That's
how
right.
you encourage them to move forward, how you encourage them to move while being in their space. I see so many different leaders really like encouraging their people, telling them this is what you need to do. These are the resources, these are the elements that we have. And I don't know if I'm missing it or if that's not being communicated to the people of DC.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's been a mixed message from the mayor for sure. She has not been as forceful, I think, as a lot of people who are spending their time organizing on the ground would like. I think your point is right, and I think this is the point she's been trying to make is like everybody's role is different, and obviously as mayor, she has a role to play in all of this. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your voice, right? We like all of us organizing on the ground understand the limits of home rule. Like we understand that if she were our governor instead of our mayor, that some of the things that are happening on the ground with Trump wouldn't happen. But that doesn't mean that we think that these things are okay. It doesn't mean we think that these things should continue. And I think unfortunately the mayor's done this more often than not, just not in this instance. But I think if you look over the years, has used our lack of full autonomy when it's convenient for her to make a point about our local politics. And so, it's true that she was not excited about the reforms that were made to policing in the aftermath of George Floyd, right? She was, is not as excited or is not as convinced about like the effectiveness of violence interruption programs as some other Democratic mayors would be around or investing in around the country. And so instead of right drawing a hard line saying I don't care what Republicans on the Hill think about our systems of public safety, that's district residents' decision to make. She's now, I think, using some of her rhetoric to backdoor, I think, what are progressive policies on the local level that she would rather not have implemented. So she is asking for more officers on the street, not necessarily asking the administration for more violence interruption money or things like that. And so I think to your point, like we've got, I think, just like a gap in where the people are and where our leaders are, and I think that's showing itself in this moment.
Yes, and look, because I know I can ask you the questions. Because what why do you think she keeps on being able to be in office? It's like, do you like? Do people really like her? Because I think me being away from college, I went to for the viewers, new viewers, and Marcus. I don't know if you know, but I went to North Carolina Central. So going away from 16 to 22, 21, and then coming back home. Not only coming back home for like 2020 for COVID, coming back home to adulthood as well. It's like, what are y'all voting for? So you've been in the city. What have you seen or maybe heard?
Yeah, I mean the mayor's now been mayor for 3 terms now. She got elected for the first time in 2014, and I would say I think the reason she got elected or reelected every time, I think has been different every time. And so, I think she made the argument the first time that it's like we need this fresh start in the mayor's office, and we were like, okay, cool, yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense. And so I think there was a majority of voters who believed like we just needed to move on from like all of the corruption scandals and things that were going on in the city at the time, which was fine. But I think over the years, like the promise, at least of like poor folks and more progressive folks in the city, if you ask some of them, she's become less popular on issues like housing, right? On issues like crime, on issues like jobs and economic opportunity. And in the last election, did not win a majority of the Democratic vote in the primary, but she was in a field of 3 candidates. I think she got somewhere around 48, 49% of the vote, but those other 2 candidates split the remainder. And so I think what last election showed is that a majority of Democrats did not want her to be mayor for another term. And I think that this issue will be, I think, a really critical issue in next year's mayoral election. And I think how people feel about the mayor's reaction to this moment will decide who and how they vote.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to be a huge turning point for DC. And one of my biggest questions about it, again, we'll keep emphasizing you're heavily involved in the community. And my first thought was like, how can I become involved in the community. Of course, the mutual connection, Boys and Girls Club, but of course, volunteering through them. But my brain really got to how could the everyday person invest in our communities more so that we can work on this from the bottom up, because at this point we all know, like, nobody's coming to save us in any aspect of our lives, like in any aspect of our lives. So I was just thinking more so, and I know you have a huge background in education and supporting education in DC as well. So at one of the jobs I used to work at, they talked about 3 generational work. If you help the kids, you'll help the parents, and then you'll help their future kids as well. And that's really where my mindset went to, not more so thinking about what are these political officials going to do for us. It's more so like what do we already have established in our communities that we can do. So I guess that would be my next question. What do you think? What have you seen, or what conversation have you heard are to move from here for the average person? Not because not everybody is involved in politics, but what do you think maybe the average person could do for themselves and their community moving forward?
Yeah, I think we talked before we kind of started the full interview just about these not being normal times. Like, they're not being a blueprint for this moment. Like, creating community is very different now. Right, finding reliable information is so much harder now than it used to be, kind of before AI and all of these things that I think have like fragmented our networks of information. And so, I think the best way for people to lean in, is to, one, find a community, right, that you trust, right, that you can build with, that you can share information with. Because I think these times, whether it's Trump or kind of these other leaders throughout our history who tried to take power this way, the first tool is isolation, right? If you cut people off from, right, networks of caring neighbors, if you cut people off from like participating in their democracy, if you cut people off from, getting reliable information, then it's much easier to control people, right? It's kind of this divide and conquer mentality. And so, yeah, it's really important for people to find community in this moment, however you find it, right? Whether it's joining a monthly call where people are just, giving updates about what's happening in the community, or telling you ways that you could participate, whether it's joining a mutual aid network. And DC has a really good network of mutual aid organizations that fill gaps for neighbors in practical ways, right? When the government falls through, get out and organize in the streets, right? If you've got a free Saturday, go to the local community meeting or go to the local march. And I think visibility is also really important in this moment. I know we talked already about people who have just done things as simple as like recording police interactions, with their neighbors, knowing that like that visibility is really important in this moment where people are literally being disappeared off the streets. And so, yeah, I think we should think about ways big and small that we can contribute. But I think the point that I try to make whenever anybody asks, like, what can be done in this moment, is that no action's too small, right? Because like the problems seem so big, I think we think that like our individual response to those problems has to be equal to that problem, or like it's not worth doing. And that's not true. Like, we've all got to do our little bit where we can, because that's the only thing that's ever made a difference.
Yeah. And I love to tell people to be someone that you needed. Go out, think about to your childhood, think about the spaces where you maybe could have used some more help. And if you know that you haven't developed, don't go to nobody's space if you know you don't have it. But if you know that you have those qualities within yourself, go volunteer with that football team. Go volunteer at the gardens. We have so many community gardens. Go volunteer at the food pantries. Help people where you think you can. Go, if you have clothes, don't just go throw them away. Go donate them, not just to Goodwill, but go donate them to the different shelters in the communities. If you have time to, make some food. There's so many different ways and that's the type of thinking that I was thinking about as well. Like, just think about different ways that you can help, that you can influence. What's it called? Art helps the people. You can do some things some knitting classes, some like I sew, painting, whatever you can do. Bring some resources into different spaces, and remember, like the children is where it starts. So even with you, I formerly my last position, I was doing intergenerational work. So with like kindergarten through third graders, I had senior citizens, and they were coming in to teach them how to read, to help them improve their reading skills. Go sit and go read, go read to the
Yeah.
kids. Go to the libraries in the community. Go get you a library card as well. There's so many different ways that you can just influence your community, help. What is it? Not just build revenue, but build that energy, build the network in your community, and use the spaces that we already have so
Mhm.
that they won't be taken from us. Pretty much, that's really what the bottom line of it is. So
Seriously, and I think sometimes like this seems like a more passive thing, but like just keeping up with the news, like as hard as it is sometimes, right? Because um, Trump and his folks have had this concept that they call flooding the zone, right? Where you just right flood the public with so much controversy, with so much information, with so many things that seem shocking that one, people don't know what to focus on, so they're always like their attention's always diverted, they're always panicked, and two, it really helps distract from like what you're really trying to do, right? If stack one outrageous thing over top of another, it's hard to keep people accountable. But that visibility and that accountability is important. Right now, we should all find ways to, right, step back from it when we need to. But I think a lot of folks now, because there's so much information, because there's so much because there's so many things that shock us, like we're choosing just to step back completely, not believe that anything is true, not believe that anything is valid, not try to like
do your
keep up with
Google
the day to
search.
day. Right, exactly. But we've got to keep doing that, keep figuring out what's the truth, what's not, spreading the truth, and just being aware, because vigilance is also so important in this moment.
And I love that point about spreading the truth, and um don't ever think that you're not explaining something, that you can't explain something for somebody to understand it.
Right.
It doesn't matter what level of education you have. Do your best to understand the best of your ability and share that information as well. I can't tell you how often I be on the phone with my grandma and I'm like, yeah, grandma, this running her down the whole list
Yeah.
of things that done happen. But I love having those conversations with her because I know that they had their conversations with people around them to help
Mhm.
them understand that, especially like you said, different generations are exposed to different information. As you said,
Mhm.
AI not being able to discern
Mhm.
what is real and what is not. So be
Yeah,
sure like to check up on people that you know, and make sure that they're in the know as well, not just you. So
that's
I
right.
love that point. I love that point about being knowledgeable, and especially and I saw a video when the one of the police officers came up on somebody and he was like, you ain't know that Trump was sending us out here. You ain't know that he was sending us out here. And I'm like, we got to stay vigilant, but at the
Yeah.
same token, it's just crazy to see how things are. And then he could have. I forgot exactly how he explained it to him, but think about that. That's his perspective as a police officer explaining this to a civilian, explaining this to somebody who we don't even know where these people are from. As they
Yeah.
said, like so many of the different of the troops have come from so many different areas of the world. We don't know if you've ever seen anybody that look like us, that talk like us, and for us to be from DC. DC is a melting pot. If you ever saw one, you can look like anything, and you don't know what that person is about until they open their mouth. So
Yeah.
you cannot have any like. It's a horrible place to be prejudiced because you don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
Like,
seriously. And I think that's what the president is finding out now too. I mean,
yes.
he tried to go out to dinner and like,
Oh
make a
yes,
show for the cameras, and that didn't work out too well for him.
you
So
look confused.
yeah, I think he's finding out he's got his work cut out for him here in DC. But yeah, I mean, we are a diverse community. We're super
Mhm.
intersectional. Obviously, like we've got, a really strong and thriving Black community here.
Yeah.
tons of migrants, not just from like South and Central America, but you think about, us also having the largest Ethiopian population outside of Ethiopia in the DMV area. And so you got also this, strong migrant contingent from, Africa and the Caribbean here. Yeah, it's just a very diverse city, which makes beating back the threats that Trump poses even more difficult, right? Because I think he's attacking it from all sides, and so yeah, we're seeing tons of people being arrested, tons of ICE related stuff, and you're seeing the impact on the city. People are going out to restaurants less, people are walking the streets less, and they're calling it a drop in crime, but really it's just
The people are inside.
a drop in movement. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I forgot, I wish I remember compliance by force. That's what I said. That's what I was saying. I was like, it's literally compliance by force. Like you're forcing people. This is not what's in people's genuine heart to
Yeah.
do. And it's very interesting to see like that they don't understand. People are a lot more educated now. Like people aren't dumb anymore. Like you can't just tell them that the sky's red. Be like, okay, cool,
Right.
let's do that. Like no, with technology we can research, we can figure out. And I think that that's probably a lack too, that people just assume that people just aren't that smart or they're not getting it. And it's so crazy to see. Like it's so crazy to see.
Yeah. I mean, they've been plotting this for decades,
Right.
right? Knowing that, wanting to play on people's divisions, wanting to like continue this campaign to dehumanize people. So it's just like, Trump's campaign to dehumanize Black people, started decades ago.
Right. Yeah.
Talking about the death penalty for this, calling for the death penalty for the Central Park Five in a full page, ad in the New York Times back in the 1980s, or whether it's him calling for, the deportation of President Obama, who he said wasn't born in the United States, kind of like started this rumor
Yes.
in his first term in office. Or, is what he's doing today, whether it's calling Black mayors low IQ, or calling, Black youth in cities thugs who need to be like driven out of the city. These are like clearly his opinions, but like the way he has waged this war on Black people is not like unintentional.
Yes.
He's just now, to your point, living his dream, right?
Yes. Oh yes, yes, yes. We were definitely
Yeah,
talking about that beforehand.
yeah,
How I was reading something. They were talking about how we're all living in someone else's dream, and like in any sector of our life, we could be living our dream. Of course, when we have the controllers, that's our time to shine. But when you think about it, even like what we were talking about on the trains, like anything on these computers, on the platform that we're streaming on, like everything is somebody else's dream. And it's so crazy when we just allow them to run rampant. This might be a nightmare. She said, this is a
seriously,
dreams and
crazy,
nightmares.
crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Marcus, that was great, and I thought it was the conversation went in the flip. So I really
yeah,
also wanted to talk to you about just your upbringing. Talk about
yeah,
your decision to be in politics, to be political,
yeah,
whichever way we want to say it. And as we were talking about just a few moments ago, like everybody in DC has such a different experience and opportunities. You either sign up for them or they might just be dropped in your life. So I
yeah,
just wanted to talk about. So can we go back for you
yeah,
and talk to us about some memories and lessons? Because I see that you were raised in Congress Heights. I
yeah,
know that's right. Let me see. Yes,
yeah,
you three generations of Washingtonians. Like I think that's so cool. And when I was doing my ancestry, I was like, wow, we really from here. Like we really
yeah,
from here. And it is common, but at the same token, it's not so. Say all that to say,
yeah.
can you talk to us about like your beginning starts, and not even in politics, but before you even maybe thought about politics? What was young Marcus interested in?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said, I was born and raised in Congress Heights. Well, I was born at Greater Southeast Hospital, which became United Medical Center, which is about to close now, which is crazy.
Man,
But rightfully so, we're getting a brand new hospital in Ward 8, which we fought for years for. But yeah, was born in this community, and raised by mostly my mom, who devoted her life to service in a way, not in the way I'm doing it, but I for sure did for most of the time when I was growing up. Once she went back to work after I was born, she was an early childhood educator and developer, so worked with young people, helping them grow and develop, like super young people from like infants all the way to toddlers. And then later, kind of in her career, switched to helping to serve the oldest members of our community as a home health aide. So, working to help kind of the older members in our community gain a new quality of life in their later years. So, I gained a lot of inspiration from her, just watching her serve in quiet ways, always look out for our neighbors, right? Be caring and attentive to people who practically were strangers to her, and so I think that is my first example of kind of being involved in service, was just my mom doing it in those quiet ways. But also, was raised in my grandmother's house. So my grandfather spent 40 years working for Safeway. My grandmother raised six kids in DC. And so, my growing up was pretty typical for a Southeast kid, I guess. I went to public schools, went to Martin Luther King Elementary, then uptown to Hardy Middle School, and then back to Southeast for Thurgood Marshall Academy. And then around that time, really did get interested. I was always interested in kind of history and politics as a young person, and so would like follow history and current events, but really got engaged in high school when, to your point, an opportunity fell in my lap to be in the Marion Barry Youth Leadership Institute, which I think, even though, like most of us who are kind of involved in this work at a young age, we kind of had the passion, but I think the institute really gave me the avenue to be active, and so I got to serve as youth mayor of DC when I was in the institute, and not too long after I graduated high school, or not too long after I went to college at GW, started running for office. So I got elected as an advisory neighborhood commissioner in my native neighborhood of Congress Heights when I was 21. And then 2 years after that, at age 23, got elected to represent Ward 8 and the 44 schools that the ward had at the time on the State Board of Education, fighting for young people and families. Ran a couple times for the DC Council, really focused on issues centered on, tackling poverty, on tackling racial and economic inequality in the city, really focused on building jobs and an education system for the future. And now am doing national politics. So really fighting for those values that I was taught here in DC on a national level, fighting for voting rights, fighting for the right to a free and fair education, and fighting for a justice system that works for all of us. Unfortunately, all things that are under attack right now in DC, but really grateful for that work. But to your point, all inspired by how I got my start here. The one thing I always tell people is like, it's hard not to be involved when you grew up off of Martin Luther King Avenue and went to a school named after Martin Luther King, and your barbershop is named after Martin Luther King, next to the beauty salon named after Coretta Scott King. It's too much inspiration in DC, and especially in Ward 8, to not be involved somehow.
Absolutely. So was there a specific moment where you were like, okay, I have to be part of creating solutions? Like, was there a specific moment for you?
Um, I think again, being like very influenced by the civil rights movement. So when I was in elementary school, I was in the school choir. I was not that good at singing,
I was
but
about to say, Marcus, I know you
yeah,
can
yeah,
sing.
yeah. No, no, no. I was not that good at singing, but because I went to Martin Luther King Elementary, like at a part of the performance, they would have like one kid get up and like do like a rendition of the "I Have a Dream" speech during the like assembly. So when I was at Martin Luther King Elementary School, I was the kid who did like the "I Have a Dream" speech. So it's like I grew up with like this inspiration,
Mhm.
and I think this constant uh inspiration about like activism, and like the power of everyday people doing powerful things. So I think I was always inspired and always knew that I could have a role to play if, in changing things if I wanted to. And then when I got to high school, like Obama was getting elected. I started high school in the fall of 2007. And
Mhm.
so, we kind of looked alike back then. And so I was like, Obama, like my nickname was Obama at school. And
Mhm.
so like, I think I was pushed towards public service, but I think those examples of being able to see myself, right. And a lot of Black kids around the country don't get an opportunity, right, to grow up in a city where their mayor is Black and where their city council member is Black, and right, where the important people who play important roles in the community are Black. And I really feel grateful for that. And then, with Obama showing that, it's not just possible here in DC, but if I wanted to build a career that I thought could have national impact, right, that was also possible too. And so, yeah, I think, to your point, I'm living a little bit of my dream. I think I always wanted to do this work, right? Organize, help neighbors in need, fight for issues that I thought were important. And as difficult as I think that has gotten over the course of my career, far more difficult than it was when I got elected
Mhm.
for the first time in 2014. I think it's even more worth it today.
I love that. You are answering so many of my questions, and I appreciate it. Yes. So what motivated you to take that leap so early? Like, what motivated you to be like, you know what? Let's do it for real. Let's
Yeah.
get in here. Even though I know like the youth has a very good impact. So I'm not discrediting what we can do in
Mhm.
our youth work because the youth do not play in DC. They have
Right.
a they don't play. But I'm saying to step into elected off an elected office. How was that for you to make that decision?
I mean, some of it is just having, friends crazy enough to agree with your ideas sometimes, and I think it was, I just thought I could do a good job. It wasn't like elected office was not where I started, even though I did start there young, but I started being engaged in real like practical ways in the community when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. So by the time I was 21, somehow I've been in it longer than some of like the adults right in the space. And so had organized on the ground, paid my dues per se, but was always just seeking out ways that I could um, just make deeper impact, and had always, and when I was in high school, had started going to my ANC meetings, and they never seemed productive. Like people just always seemed to argue, and they never got to the source of the issue, and like they weren't bringing neighbors together, and like they weren't like solving any problems. And I just thought I could do a better job, right, than the current guy that was doing it. And so convinced a few of my friends kind of on a whim. And we went to my neighbors, and I think we ran probably one of the most professional, like, races for an office that makes no money that I think probably the city has ever seen, right? We had yard
You
signs,
were serious.
t-shirts, and we knocked every door in the district, talking to people about what they cared about, but also saying like, yeah, this is a small office, and like, yeah, like it's a small office. I'm 21. You can trust me with this. But like we could make a big like we could make a
Yeah.
difference. And let me tell you like what your commissioner is supposed to do. And like
Mhm.
this is not what the commissioner is doing. And enough of our neighbors were responsible for that. It was a very close election. I only won by like 40 something votes.
I know that's right.
But I think it showed me, it demonstrated to me that like, um, uh, you could be young and get out and explain things to people, and the community will, in most cases, right, back you up if you come correct. And so that was definitely an interesting experience. Didn't know if we were going to win. Didn't expect to because we were running against a guy who currently held the office. But
Mhm.
we worked hard and we made it happen.
And that's how things happen. You gotta
Yeah.
have somebody who's crazy enough to go ahead, and it doesn't have to be. It's not even crazy. It's to have the passion, and then when other people see your passion and they see that you know what you're talking about. Um, I love that. And you have a lot of people, and it just lends to the idea that if you don't do what you're set out to do, you never know what kind of doors can open for the people that are behind you. There are plenty of people in the community that we know as well, all in general, and it's like you never know what could have been done had you not made those decisions to step into those offices or step in, or who else is inspired by you, whether they say it or not. Or even like me, I think I met you back in like 2015, twenty
Mhm,
sixteen type
mhm,
type
mhm.
time.
Yeah,
It's like almost 10 years later, and
yeah.
being able to connect and being able to just know that, okay, I can trust this person. And then also just to have somebody that's from your community always helps. Nobody wants a
Mhm.
transplant running the
Yeah,
system.
right.
Nobody wants a transplant running their system. So
Yeah, and my thing is you'll realize that people care about perspective as much as they care about experience, right? So, to that point, like running for the school board at 23 was probably not something, even after I won my first election to the neighborhood commission, just wasn't something people thought was possible. Like I wasn't doing kind of the traditional things typical school board members had done. I hadn't been a classroom teacher, I wasn't a PhD, quite frankly, like didn't have a college degree. And but like was very honest with my neighbors about what I thought I could offer, which was that, if I got elected at 23, every member of the Board of Education would be twice my age. And that I thought having somebody on the board who had actually been in a public school classroom relatively recently was actually an important perspective, right, to have on the Board of Education. I also told people, right, that I thought, that the board that I thought I could be a good policymaker, but that the board didn't make any money, didn't have like all the authority it should have, and so we also needed a community leader. And I thought I was a pretty good organizer at the time, and so I said, well, I'll visit the schools, right? I'll run the complaints up the ladder, like I'll be the energetic guy, right? Our parents and our teachers need. And then the third thing I was telling people was that it was more about education, right? Like I didn't have kind of the practical experience of an educator, but I knew how important schools were as a center of a strong community, right? Knowing that you can do something about food inequality from a school building, you can do something about poverty from a school building. You can do right things about public safety from a school building if you invest in the right way, if you build the partnerships. And we focused a lot on that work too, right? Which was more, it was about education, but it was also about all of these things we knew we had to build around schools to make students successful. And people were responsive to that. So to that point, it's not always about having kind of what people think's the right experience on the list, but if you look at like the balance of your life and of your experiences and what you think you can contribute or have contributed, right, either to your community or to your friend group or to your family, and you think it'll be valuable to the fight, please offer it, because it definitely will make a difference. Yeah.
And that's a great nugget to leave it up, because I was literally about to ask you, what advice would you give to somebody like that may have some hindering in what they want to do and what they want to pursue? And I feel like that's the perfect answer. If you know you have something to give, go give it. And I think
Mhm.
so many. That's what I'm saying. I love a fearless person. Of course, on the exterior
Yeah.
might not be on the inside, but on I love to see somebody going after things and standing up and not being afraid to express their full thought. I appreciate that so much. Just anybody in any space, like you said, like if you have it, offer it. Let's do it. So I
Yes.
feel like Marcus, I'm looking at my questions, I'm looking at my details, and I feel like we have covered everything. This is by far one of my favorite conversations that I've had. Like I'm for sure. But do you have anything else that you would like to share with the community? Anything else you would like to say before we log off, and also share where we can find you?
Yeah. I think I watched. So I've got. I started watching Big Brother for some reason, like over the last few years. And so, but for some reason, like the host Julie Chen, like she ends every episode by saying "love one another," and I think that is very good advice. And so I'm just gonna steal hers for this time, which is like love one another. I think it is really easy today to isolate ourselves, to cut ourselves up from a world that we might think is like too divisive or too dangerous, or like too distracted to tackle our problems or to really like find common ground. But doing this work every day has proven to me that like there's always hope for that, and as long as we keep leaning in and just keep being good neighbors to one another, right? Keep leaning into right the love that we naturally have for our neighbors and for our community, even when it's difficult. We'll make it through this together. And so, yeah, I'm still in Julie Chen's in their motto, love one another. And I love y'all for sure. Love you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And where can they find you?
Yes, so I'm on all socials at Marcus for DC, MarkusFordC. And also, please follow and look up the organization I work for, People for the American Way. If you are listening from around the country, I think there are plenty ways that People for can be a natural home for people who have a passion to get involved wherever you are around the country. And if you're in DC, to please look up the Free DC Coalition and get involved, whether it is being out at protests, whether it's going to court watch, right, to support people tangled up in the criminal justice system, whether it's making posters for rallies ahead of time. I think there's ways for all of us to tap into this local movement to free DC. So definitely do that work too.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Again and again and again. And keep growing, friends.